Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Ron. Real quick video on the new GoPro 13 and the new HB series lenses that you can get with this new action camera. Now specifically, I'm going to walk you through a few things that you may have been unclear about with these new ND filters for this. Okay, before I get too far ahead of myself, let's just put my FPV up in the air with the GoPro 13 attached to it. We're going to get some footage, we're going to get some motion blur, and see how this thing looks. See how it actually performs in the air. First flight with this thing. A little rusty to be honest, so wish me luck. Now specifically, I'm going to walk you through a few things that you may have been unclear about with these new ND filters for this action camera. First thing you want to know is you may need to upgrade your camera's firmware before you can use the HB series lenses. And I'll leave links down below to everything you need to find the newest firmware. It's just the GoPro.com/update website. Again, links will be down below. Mounting the ND filters to the GoPro 13 is pretty simple, just like the other ones we used to do. First, you'll remove the default camera lens by turning it 45-degree counterclockwise, and then put the new GoPro 13 ND filters on. And you've got a blue indicator on the camera and a blue indicator on the lens. Just place the lens over the camera, inner lens lining up with the blue indicator, and press and rotate clockwise to lock it into place. Nothing real different there. You just have a little blue indicator now that you didn't have before if you're used to the previous cameras. And if you've never done this before, don't worry, the lenses are a little snug and that's perfectly normal. Just make sure the ND filter sits totally flush with the body of the camera. If it looks like something's misaligned, just, remove it and reattach it. You're in good shape. You also have the front cap designed to protect your lens mod when installing, removing it, or you're not recording and you just want it to be protected. Okay, let's move on to the important stuff. Something new with these filters. These new filters have what's called filter detection. In short, this means that the camera will auto-detect the lens mods that you attach. So if you place an ND4 on here, your camera knows it's an ND4. If you put an ND16 on here, the camera knows it's an ND16 filter. You get the idea. Now these new neutral density filters work with what GoPro calls their auto cinematic, which is part of the shutter settings under your Pro Tune settings. Now, first time using ND filters, don't worry. With auto cinematic mode, the camera automatically adjusts the shutter to capture motion blur, which in turn optimizes the stabilization as well. And one other thing I also noticed, and I'm not sure if this is new with the latest firmware or the newest firmware, but I also noticed something called anti-flicker 50 Hertz. You can switch this on if you have flicker in your footage. I haven't played too much around with this, but just know that it's there, something that you can update. Now, with these new ND filters, you also will see something called motion blur. This setting lets you select the intensity or the amount of motion blur. You have two values here. You have an auto and a high. Auto adds motion blur to your video while maintaining stabilization. Motion blur will, however, vary based on shutter speed values. And let me quickly put a screenshot up here so you can see how the GoPro 13 menu changes based on when you do or do not apply an ND filter to this camera. It's something a little different than the previous models. Now, I'm still not sure if these new settings or updates are going to save me time, as I've been using the GoPro cameras for a number of years now, and I'm pretty familiar with dialing in the manual settings. And on a side note, I'm still not sure if GoPro simplified the process here or just made things a little bit more complicated. It's great to have these options, but can also make things a little more difficult to dial in the perfect settings for that shot. Now, the other thing that you should know is you have what's called ND metering as well. Your camera will analyze the lighting and recommend the best ND filter for your shot. So if you see an up arrow here on the screen, like I'm showing, you want a higher ND filter. If you see a down arrow, then you want a lower value ND filter. You'll see those at the top of your touchscreen, as I'm showing here, when you apply the ND filter to the camera. Just keep in mind that these values update when you add an ND filter to your camera, but if you want to change the settings, you can still do that. Just be aware that they're changing in the background as you add or remove your ND filters from the GoPro 13 camera. Well, that's not good. Yeah, I guess that comes with territory. Okay, so I'm just finishing up the edit, and I got to be candid with you guys. Yep, I was out there flying and with my new GoPro 13, and as you saw from that earlier clip, crashed and the back screen cracked on this 13, which is no surprise. If you've been flying FPV for a while, you're going to have some issues, and cracking the screens is a common problem. Not the first time I did it, probably won't be the last time I did it, so I'm going to be sending this back, and hopefully I'll use my subscription program to get a replacement. Obviously I still pay some cost for that, but it's not the full value of the GoPro. It actually still works, everything's good, I can use the back screen, but as I showed you in the earlier clip, obviously, this focuses, obviously it's cracked now, and it wasn't a major crash, but these screens crack all the time. If you're flying FPV, they're really not designed to be dropping out of the sky and doing 60 miles an hour. So just something to keep in mind. Happens. I also did break off, I'll mention it real quick, the feet on the bottom here. There's some feet. I managed to break off one of the feet too. So that happened. It still goes in there somewhat. So, all right, back to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel, because I'm going to obviously have some expenses associated with making this video, it's always appreciated. All right, back to the video, back to the final wrap up. See you guys. And let me say there's plenty of other features and settings in the new GoPro 13. I just got mine earlier this week, so I'm still playing around with all the settings, and as I dial in my preferred settings for FPV, I'll be posting some updated videos of that as well. I hope you come back and check that out for future videos. That's all I have for this one. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.
Crazy times, can't you feel it? Is there a reason for it?